Alright guys, the Bungie weekly update is finally here, and it's pretty big. They finally shed some light on the new weapon changes that we can expect to see with the 2.0 patch. I'm just going to start reading off these sections and then give a brief reaction to it because this is going to be a pretty big video. For auto rifles, yes, they are finally addressing auto rifles. First off, their goals for auto rifles are to be optimal at close to medium ranges. The damage, stability, and range are tuned such that players desire stability for reliable close quarters damage, or range for better accuracy and increased damage at a distance. For the changes that they are going to make, they are going to increase the base damage, but no number has actually been given. Start damage fall off closer to the player to emphasize its role as a close to medium range weapon, and small reduction in base stability. Landing shots at optimal range is unaffected, but repeat precision hits require more weapon control to land consistently. And then they're going to boost damage by 10% against AI combatants. Hopefully this leads to auto rifles being used more in PvP and actually being used in PvE as well. So for pulse rifles, they state that they're still pretty strong right now in PvP, and they want to maintain that feeling of raw power, but introduce some more subtlety to the firing mechanics of the weapon. So the changes that they're going to make to pulse rifles, they will be reducing the base damage of the medium rate of fire ones by about 2.5%. So for PvP, that means the bursts to kill, as in all precision hits, is going to be 2 or 3, depending on the victim's armor stat. They're also going to include a small reduction in base stability, and they're also going to increase the magazine size on all for base inventory stats. So this means that in PvE, it was really difficult to generally kill things because you would also run out of ammo a lot, so that magazine increase will help there. PvP, due to the small damage nerf, we should see a little bit more time to react, but it still should feel pretty much totally the same for the most part, as long as you're using the weapon at its optimal range. Scout rifles are currently orbiting their sweet spot according to Bungie. They made a few changes to solidify their role as the optimal long-range primary choice and to help create a delta between hand cannons and scout rifles. They're going to increase the base damage for medium to high rate of fire scout rifles. In PvP, this will not affect the time to kill on a guardian with full health. They will increase the magazine size for all base inventory stats and reduce the final accuracy when firing from the hip. Fast firing outside of aim down sights will be less accurate as well. And they're also going to boost damage by 5% against all AI combatants. Hopefully this means that we should start seeing scout rifles used even more in PvE due to the damage boost, and then in PvP, we really shouldn't see that many changes. If anything, it should be a little bit easier to use them. And then in PvP, we shouldn't really see any changes. Okay, hand cannons are a pretty big thing here, and they fully recognize that a lot of the initial complaints about hand cannons are largely due to Thorn, Hawkmoon, and Last Word. So the changes that they're going to be putting into hand cannons: start damage fall off closer to the player to limit long-range lethality. Small reduction in aim down sight accuracy targeted at making long-range snap shooting less reliable, and reduce final accuracy when firing from the hip. They're also going to reduce the magazine size for all base inventory stats and reduce the base optics and zoom for all hand cannons, so aiming down sights now grants more width in favor of depth. So these changes, I'm on the fence about. I'm a big user of hand cannons, and personally I don't think the magazine size reduction was really needed in this. But again, we're going to have to see how it actually plays out. All the other things are things that I agree with. Right now, why do I use a scout rifle? It's because I'm trying to go for extremely long ranges with the primary where hand cannons can't reach, because otherwise a hand cannon will fit in every single one of my encounters due to their extreme range. So hopefully all these range reductions that they're putting in there will make hand cannons a little bit more balanced in both PvP and PvE. For shotguns, they kind of fully recognize that they messed up with Fellwinter's Lie and these really high range, high impact shotguns. They say that the goals for shotguns are they should be most effective at a very close range, complements melee attacks and other close quarters class builds, and offensively closing in on an enemy with a shotgun is a risk/reward timing game. And they want to curb shotgun effectiveness in PvE slightly to reintroduce some risk when closing in on a powerful enemy. So the changes that they'll be implementing for shotguns: shotgun perks that enhance lethality at range should be less effective when combined with a high initial range stat. They will be reducing the shot package accuracy buff by 30%. Rangefinder will only add 5% base range increase on aim down sight instead of 20%. They will also reduce the precision damage multiplier on shotguns by 10% and reduce damage against AI combatants by 10%. So for PvE, shotguns are still going to be hitting really hard, just not quite as hard as they're currently doing. In PvP, hopefully this means shot package and rangefinder won't be those defining features that you always find on shotguns. As far as how this actually plays into people still using Matador, Party Crasher, and Felwinners, well, we'll have to wait to see. Personally, I don't think these changes are really going to do that much to it though. For fusion rifles, their goals are for them to be optimal at mid-range, where targets are easier to track, but they're not close enough to attack while charging up. The changes that they're going to be putting in, they want slow-charging, high-impact fusion rifles to have decreased range values. It makes it more difficult to max out range for these weapons. And projectile speed for fusion rifles is slightly reduced, emphasizing the need to lead a target outside medium range. They also want to improve the accuracy for short-range fusions and reduce accuracy for long-range fusion rifles. As far as them being useful, I really think fusion rifles could also use a damage boost in PvE, because right now, it's either sniper or shotgun. There's no in-between there. For PvP, I think these changes might help, but then again, I haven't used a fusion rifle in so long that I can't really comment on it, unfortunately. Hopefully, I'll be able to try this at some point in the near future. Hopefully these changes will make fusion rifles a little bit more powerful in PvP, just to vary up the playing field some. For sniper rifles, they say that they're pretty much performing right where they need to be, aside from one small thing, which is the final round perk. And I'm going to agree there. So the only change that they're going to be putting in here is that final round on snipers buffs precision damage only, not base damage. And this change will only affect this perk when combined with sniper rifles. This is a very simple, elegant change to the final round perk, because personally, I think it's great to have it in PvE. But in PvP, when you're just body shotting someone, it feels really cheap. So this perk really makes final round still useful, but it's not a must-have absolute perk that people are still going to be coveting. And it's also not going to lead to a bunch of cheap tactics in Trials of Osiris. So rocket launchers are apparently performing exactly where they need to be, except for one perk again. Rocket launchers deal massive AoE damage from a distance, and rockets are optimal when placed in the middle of a group. So the changes that they're going to be doing are slight increase to base blast radius, and grenades and horseshoes proximity detonation will be reduced. Personally, this is a very needed change, because grenades and horseshoes makes rockets really easy to use. I can just fire it into where I think an enemy might be, and then it generally detonates the rocket anyway. I still think a perk of this quality should be on exotics, but I'm glad they definitely reduced the proximity detonation, so some of these other rockets and maybe even machine guns could get used in PvP. Also, there's going to be some exotic weapon tuning in this patch. Instead of reading all the introductions for each weapon, I'm just going to tell you the changes that they're doing to each weapon. Hardlight. They are increasing the base stability to 80, it was 65, increase the bounce count for Hardlight projectiles, and Hardlight projectiles are not affected by damage falloff. The increased stability will be great because then you can pick some of the other perks in that tree instead of trying to keep maxing out stability now without really having to spec into one of the other stability talents. Even just a base stability of 80 is fantastic. Necro Chasm. They are increasing the base stability to 60, it was 40, so that's a plus. They are going to increase the magazine size, yet they haven't given a number. The Cursebringer perk will always trigger on a precision kill, and Cursebringer Explosion has increased radius and deals more damage. Necro Chasm has been the redheaded stepchild of all exotics pretty much. Necro Chasm is just useless in its current state, and all of these perks pretty much address everything that I've said is wrong with the weapon. The stability is too low, the magazine size is too small, Cursebringer needs to proc all the time, and then the Cursebringer Explosion needs to deal more. Well, fantastic, they did all of that. I still think it shouldn't be in that really high rate of fire archetype, but I'll take this current victory. Last word. They're going to reduce the range stat to 10, it was 20, and reduce the stability to 20, where it was 30. They're going to reduce the effective range while aiming down sight, increase the accuracy and precision damage aim assist scale when firing from the hip, and then fix the bugs with hip fire damage bonus applying incorrectly. That last one there is the one I really just wanted them to fix. I'm tired of getting 2-hit from across the map by last word. Also, the range reduction should be another really great thing to really solidify this weapon as a close range killer. Thorn. Yes, they're changing it. Thank you. They are reducing the base damage of Thorns' Mark of the Devourer dot damage over time to roughly 1/3 of what it was in PvP and PvE, but they are allowing the dot to stack up to 5 times across multiple landed projectiles. So it's a net buff for Thorns' dot, but reduces the lethality of the weapon in PvP. I'm okay with this, and I'm not okay with this, because that still means if you have a bunch of team members running Thorn, now those dots are going to stack, and you're still just going to die pretty much just as quick if all that team shooting's going on. I personally really just wanted to see them reduce the amount of time that dot is actually on you, because in PvP, that's one of the worst parts, is you can't go back into a fight, and I'm going to get on a big rant, so I'm just going to stop right now. I think they could do a little bit more with the Thorn nerfs, but it is also combined with the hand cannon nerf, so we'll have to see how good they actually nerf this thing. Hawkmoon. They are adding a stack limit to Luck in the Chamber and Holding Aces, so that only 2 of the bonus perks will ever stack on 1 round. I'm very sad to see that go, but it's a change that I completely agree with. It was very overpowered to completely one-shot someone. They are adding 2 rounds to Hawkmoon's magazine when Holding Aces is finally unlocked, and Luck in the Chamber bonus reduced by 3%. Overall, these changes I'm completely fine with on Hawkmoon. It's still a very strong hand cannon that happens to have aggressive ballistics, so I'm still going to use it. Icebreaker. They're really tired of you sitting in the back of an area and then just hitting stuff with Icebreaker. So, they're going to increase the recharge time for Icebreaker rounds to 1 every 8 seconds, whereas right now it's 1 every 5 seconds. Hopefully this should curb the amount of people that are just sitting in the back of one area. No Land Beyond. I might actually use this weapon now. They are increasing the weapon handling speed for faster time to aim, ready, and stow. And they are adjusting the sights to fix the overlap/parallax issue while aimed. They are increasing the time decay of the Master to 8 seconds, and they're going to add an additional 20% precision damage bonus while the Master is active. Awesome. The biggest fix here is that they fixed the sights on it a little bit, because right now it's not really representative of where you're actually aiming. Also, just general weapon handling fixes should be great for this rifle. Curiously, Black Hammer is also on this list, even though it's not an exotic. They're increasing the ammo inventory to 18 rounds, but the White Nail perk now pulls ammo from your inventory, so no more just infinitely sniping things. I'm okay with this, but it does kind of take away the usefulness of this particular weapon. Lord of Wolves. They definitely like it, and it doesn't need any help in the damage department, but they are going to help the one perk on it that everyone really likes, but isn't really using. They are tripling the recovery boost bonus for allies granted by the Lord of Wolves. Pretty simple fix. I can't wait to try it out, as I love that weapon. Gallarhorn, Getlahorn, Ballerhorn, Boomstick, whatever you want to call it, it's getting nerfed. Long story short, they're reducing the damage of Wolfpack rounds, which is very much needed. As much as I hate to say it, I really did rely on those Wolfpack rounds in PvE to get me through any sticky situation, and I'm very glad that I can no longer rely on that. I know it sounds strange to hear me say that, but it's the truth. Anyway, guys, that's it for this weekly update. If you want to read all of it, go to the website, and then keep an eye out for it on our podcast as well, where we will be discussing this way more in depth than I've gone in this video. This has been Patrick Casey with PlanetDestiny, your guide to the Destiny universe.